Gonna be a tough one. All right, Sean Duffy.
Yeah, looking at the bottom of the Division II Region 5 bracket, we have number 2, Barberton Magics hosting number 7 Benedictine. And the game did not start as planned for either team. Both teams struggled in the first quarter. Whether it was they were able to move the ball, but with interceptions and fumbles, they caused both teams to miss out on points. So at the end of the first quarter, they were tied 0-0. Now, one of the key plays in this, and I say key to being a little bit, facetious in that. No pun intended, but but a happy one instead was Barberton senior Key Thompson, who also plays the team's punter. He fumbled the snap in the second quarter, but was able to scoop it up and run the ball 58 yards for the first down, setting himself up for a 1-yard touchdown run 2 plays later. So he went from punting on 4th and 7 to 1st and goal and scoring a touchdown 2 plays later. It was designed that way. I'm sure the coach drew it up exactly like that. Go ahead and fumble the snap and scoop it up and run almost 60 yards and then score 2 plays later.
They'll never see it coming.
Nope. Thompson would then go on to put Barberton up 14-0 after a 2-yard receiving touchdown from fellow senior quarterback Zane Reese. The Magics would take a 14-0 lead into halftime. Benedictine would only get on the board thanks to a pick six that Reese threw and was returned, but they missed the extra point. Barberton would go on to put Benedictine away after a Reese 45-yard touchdown pass to senior tight end Malcolm Boyd and a pick six from Gavin Kurska and a rushing touchdown by senior Jeff Parker all but sealed the fate of Benedictine. Barberton improves to 11-0 on the season. They will travel to Ravenna High School to take on Bedford in the regional semifinals. Bedford having defeated North in 30-22 Friday night in the regional quarterfinal. So the way we look at it now is Hoban will be taking on Brush, and Barberton will be taking on Bedford. So, again, we look at it. We talked a little bit about it in Region 1. Same thing in Division 2, Region 5 here. Chalk. I mean, all the top seeds made it through, so now we're going to have to see if there are any upsets. I like Barberton still going forward here, but Bedford scares me because they're able to put up points at a lot of time at any point in time here. They got a pretty explosive offense. What do you think, Ed?
Bedford is fantastic. They are awesome this year. But obviously, no one's been able to really even hang with Barberton this year. They have train wrecked literally everybody they've played.
Yep.
Bedford did have a setback earlier in the year, and they had a very tough contest against Eastlake North. Eastlake North was making their first ever playoff appearance in school history this year. They were 6-4, also representing the Western Reserve Conference, and they gave the Bearcats all they can handle. They came back from a 20-point deficit to make it a game, and Bedford had to hang on at the end. I think for Bedford, it's I don't know if they were maybe looking ahead a little bit to a potential matchup against obviously a tremendous team in Bedford, but also a very dangerous matchup in Benedictine. But I'm pretty sure Bedford's got it's going to be much more focused this week going against the monster that is the Barberton Magics.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen really anything from Barberton that would suggest that they're not on a collision course with the defending state champions in Akron Archbishop Hoban. I expect this to be a pretty high scoring game. Not that Barberton's defense isn't good, but Bedford's offense is very, very explosive. They can match speed for speed with Barberton.
Yeah, I mean, Barberton, as I've kind of followed them all year, covering them in the Suburban League American, I mean, one thing that's impressed me all year has been their defense. I mean, their highest point total that they've surrendered was against Cuyahoga Falls, and they gave up 20 points. I mean, they also did the same thing against Copley. So they've given up no more than 20 points all year. So I mean, that's saying something for a defense that prides itself on taking the ball away. I think Bedford again is a different animal, and they're explosive. They have the speed, they have the wherewithal, and we talk about this a lot. But understanding the moment and understanding where they're at, Bedford's been in this type of playoff atmosphere maybe more so than Barberton has, and especially with a team that's riding high and thinking that they're invincible, haven't tasted a lot of adversity this year. how does Barberton respond when they're in that, when they have to go against some adversity? Because Bedford will hit you in the mouth. They'll come out and they'll run the ball at you. They'll pound it, and then they'll throw the ball deep, and we saw it. So I think the one thing for Barberton to do is just play their game. If they can get into what they're familiar with, and it is solid defense, fundamental defense, not allowing big plays over the top, which is what they've been able to do all year. Just look at the Highland game. They kept Jake Rogers in check. They kept him, and he was the star player. And with Matthew Ernest, that was a pretty high-powered offense, and they only got 14 points. So I think they have the roadmap to beat a Bedford team. You just got to wonder, is the moment going to become too big for a team that maybe not as seasoned in the playoffs as, say, Bedford traditionally is?
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. There's a lot of great matchups, obviously, when you get to this point in time.
Yeah.
Usually, you see a lot of good matchups in the first round. Sometimes you'll see some blowouts, but, man, it seems like now with the changes, you jump from round 1 into round 2, and it doesn't get any easier.
No, you're going to have the champions of the Suburban League American Division taking on the champions of the Lake Erie League. And then the other half of the bracket, you have the champions of the North Coast League Blue Division and the champions of the Western Reserve Conference. So, these are the cream of the crop, if you will, that is remaining in Division 2, Region 5.
Yeah, now we'll go to Division 2, Region 6 before we take a short break. And again, later on the show, we also have our games of the week. We were out at Wadsworth this last week, which was a great game versus Sylvania Northview. And we also were at Buckeye, where the Buckeye Bucks took on the Talmadge Blue Devils. So we'll get to those game recaps and tell you where we're going to be this next Friday. But right now, let's get to Division 2, Region 6, whereas the number 8 Toledo St. John's Jesuit at 6-5 taking on the number 1 seed Avon Eagles. And Avon comes out undefeated, and they were excited about winning the Southwestern Conference outright, but they're trying to move on from last year's first-round loss as they lost to Avon Lake in the playoffs in the first round last year. They take on Toledo St. John's, the Jesuit, the Titans. Well, the Titans, they pooch-kicked and recovered on the Avon 31-yard line to start the game. They drove down to the Avon 1-yard line, and it got to 4th down and goal at the Avon 1. Well, Avon's defense really stood up. They held them, and Avon's offense then came out and took the ball at their own 1-yard line. Well, the Eagles would drive with Ryan Malloy again to the 30-yard line, but he turned over the ball. The Titans intercepted it and took it over on the Avon 31-yard line. This time, though, they would score on Ohio State recruit running back Dallas Gant's 15-yard touchdown run. Avon, though, they did regroup after that touchdown as it was 6-0 St. John's in the game. The Titans took the lead. But then Avon came back and scored on a 1-yard touchdown run by running back Mark Steinmetz. It was 7-6 Avon at halftime. And Avon had a slow start to this one, but in the second half, it was all Avon as running back Tony Eberhardt. He would run it in on different runs here, 17 yards, 9 yards out, and 3 yards out. He had 3 touchdowns, and give credit to the Avon defense. They held Dallas Gant to 12 rushes for 59 yards and 1 touchdown. The Eagles, who started off slow of Avon, they beat the Titans 28-12 in this game. They started off really slow, like I said, 7-6 at half, and then found their stride. From some stats, Ryan Malloy, 10 of 16 passing, 133 yards and interception, but he also added 69 yards rushing that set up a key touchdown by Eberhardt, the running back, for a touchdown. Tony Eberhardt, though, he had 19 carries for 125 yards and 3 touchdowns. Again, Avon improves to 11-0, and they will face the Highland Hornets in Strongsville. And Toledo St. John's Jesuit falls to 6-5. And just pretend you didn't hear that, because we're going to give an update coming up later on, coming up in the show. So it's okay.
Spoiler alert.
I know. Spoiler alert right there. I apologize.
This is why we're not on ESPN.
I know. You know what? And I meant to change that in my notes, too, but I did. This next one I did change, though.
Oh, okay.
As the number 6 Midview Middies, they took on the number 3 Olmsted Falls Bulldogs. And the Middies, they lost earlier in the season to Olmsted Falls. Could Olmsted Falls do it again, though? And this was a game of trick plays in this game. But Michael Howard, he had 10 carries for 108 yards to lead all rushers in this game. And one went for 70 yards to set up running back Luke Lombardo on a 1-yard touchdown run. Howard, though, what a great night. Leading rusher in this game. He had some big plays as well. But Midview struck back with Isaiah Johnson. He went 90 yards on the kickoff return to tie the game at 7 on that very next play. It was 13-10 Olmsted Falls at the half. Then the Bulldogs running back Michael Howard, he would finish a solid drive to start the second half with a 10-yard touchdown run. It was 20-10 Bulldogs at one point, but Midview wasn't giving up as they would answer with a touchdown run from Seamus Higley to Connor Wolf, the running back. And this was a one-handed grab by Connor Wolf, but he was held in check most of the game, but that cut the lead to 20-17. Then trick plays ruled in the end of this game. First, with 2 minutes left in the game, Midview, they pulled off a double reverse that led to Ben Gendick's 64-yard touchdown run. And just when you thought Midview would run away with this one and hold on, head coach of the Olmsted Falls Bulldogs, Tom DeLuca, he would do one better as running back Jack Spelsey threw a 60-yard halfback pass touchdown to Braden Galaska with 42 seconds left on the clock to win the game, and that was the final. Olmsted Falls would win 26-23 to advance to the next round, and they would take on the winner from Wadsworth and Sylvania Northview. Olmsted Falls, they improved to 10-1 on the year, and the Midview Middies fall to 8-3. But give credit to the Bulldogs defense. They held Connor Wolf in check for this game, only 44 yards rushing. Quarterback Seamus Higley had 128 yards passing and 1 touchdown on the night. And for Olmsted Falls, their rushing attack had 218 yards rushing on the night between Howard and also Luke Lombardo, and I believe there was one other rusher in there. But 218 yards rushing for Olmsted Falls as they escape with a win. And obviously it's not going to get any easier for them, but what a game of trick plays. You know, just when you think that double reverse, you know, was a heck of a play call, really, to pull that one off with 2 minutes. Olmsted Falls is like, we have to counter that with something. And what a play to score with seconds left.
You know, when you're playing the same team twice, especially as closely contested as games in the Southwestern Conference are, I mean, you do need to pull out some wrinkles. I mean, because Olmsted Falls knows what Midview is going to do, and Midview knows what Olmsted Falls is going to do. You know, so it's all about execution of what your offense is against their defense and vice versa. But I mean, you saw both teams do it. Both teams had a couple tricks up their sleeves, and they were both successful at it. And in this case, the team that had the ball relatively last was the team that got it done. And Olmsted Falls pulling off a trick play with less than a minute left at their own 40-yard line. I mean, that's huge cojones there.
Yeah, they had to practice that one, especially having your running back throw a pass 60 yards. Well, I mean, maybe it didn't go 60 yards, but still, to throw it that long with a running back, you're taking a pretty big chance there. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you need the touchdown. I mean, you needed the touchdown to get into position to win the game, and to get it all in one shot. I mean, that it was a tremendous game, and as you said, credit goes to Olmsted Falls for a second straight time. As much as you can shut down Midview, they did it again. Yeah. I mean, they held them to 27 points in the first contest, 23 points in the second contest. We'll talk about who their opponent will be here in the next segment, but I will say this. They're going to need to score more than 26 points because it doesn't matter who they play between Wadsworth and Sylvania. Both those teams will put some points up.
Yeah, and it's going to be – every round gets tougher and tougher. I'm sure Coach DeLuca right now is trying to brainstorm some other trick plays for those teams, that aren't on tape.
Well, I think, you mentioned the trick plays, and I think it works in that particular realm because these teams did just face each other fairly recently in the second half of the season here. So it wasn't as if they were, it wasn't as if they played like second week of the season, third week of the season, and now they're seeing each other in week 11. I'm pretty sure they played around week 8 and week 9 somewhere in that area. So it's not necessarily that far off. So all the tape is still fresh. Their tendencies are still fresh. So at that point in time, at that critical junction of the game, you had to pull something out that they weren't ready for because, Midview's a well-coached team.
Yeah.
They're going to stick to their fundamentals. They're going to play their keys. They're going to do whatever they have to do. So you have to throw a wrinkle in there because that's the only way you're going to get a big, big-time production or a big, big-time play like that 60-yard touchdown pass that, no one's expecting the quarterback or the running back to throw. If you told me that the quarterback threw a 60-yard touchdown pass to win the game, it would be, film at 11. You see what I'm saying? But the fact that they ran a double reverse with a halfback pass to win that game, it says something. And it says that, those teams are so well matched and so well coached that it took something out of the box to kind of break that stalemate, so to speak, and get the win for Olmsted Falls. And congratulations. We say it's tough to beat a team twice in one season, and Olmsted Falls has done it. So congratulations, Olmsted Falls, and you await the winner of Wadsworth and Sylvania. So, that whoever, again, like Ed said, whatever team they play, they're going to need to be able to score and keep up with either one of those teams.
Well, I think with Olmsted Falls, what they're going to try to do is run the football and really control the offense and the way the game goes, and that's what they've been doing most of the year. So we'll see if it works in the next round. Let's finish off Division II, Mr. Duffy over there. He's eager.
Yes.
He's eager over there.
Well, I'm eager because we want to get to the game of the week in Division II.
Yeah.
So we'll move on quickly. As Rob mentioned, the Highland Hornets, number 4 seed, took on the number 5 seed Anthony Wayne in Division II Region 6. And, this was a game of two halves here. Highland was able to jump out to an early 14-point lead and seemingly looked to be able to do anything they wanted to offensively. However, Anthony Wayne was able to put up So Highland jumps out to a 14-point lead and takes that into halftime. Well, after the halftime break, Anthony Wayne was able to put up 14 quick unanswered points, and all of a sudden the game was tied. A late touchdown drive capped off by a 20-yard touchdown pass from Highland quarterback Matthew Ernest to wide receiver Evan Castellanos would able to seal the deal, give the Medina Hornets a 21-14 lead midway through the fourth quarter. Ernest would finish 13 for 22 with 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, while Jake Rogers rushed the ball 26 times for 153 yards. But it was Highland's defense that was able to make critical stops, including a late-game interception, that was able to stamp out any chance for an Anthony Wayne comeback. The number 4 Highland Hornets will now move on to face number 1 Avon Eagles in the regional semifinals at Strongsville High School this Friday night.
Uh-oh.
Yes. So, again, we talk about Highland, and, one of the things that the Medina Gazette article in which I read pointed out so eloquently was this was a bit of adversity for Highland because, they were up by 2 touchdowns going into halftime, seemingly able to do anything they wanted to offensively, but then all of a sudden Anthony Wayne comes out, punches them in the mouth in the beginning of the third quarter, ties the game up, and all of a sudden you got to reach back, you got to see what kind of team you are, and how you respond to that. And Highland was able to do just enough to get over the hump and win this game. So you like to have that in your back pocket going up against a team like Avon, who, as Rob mentioned earlier, has how much of that Southwestern Conference meat grinder is going to catch up to them towards the end of the year.
Yeah, with Avon's first-round matchup, they started off slow, and I think when you are going to play a team like Highland, you really can't start slow coming up in the playoffs as you move along. You really have to be hitting on all cylinders. So hopefully they learn from their mistakes. Coach Elder is really a great coach when it comes to, there was a slow start. I'm sure they were a little nervous going in the locker room. I'm sure he talked to them, calmed down the nerves, and they came out firing. So both great coaches with Coach Gibbons at Highland and Coach Elder. That's going to be just a fantastic coaching matchup. And, it seems like they always meet in the playoffs at this time of year.
In fact, this will be the third time in 4 years that Avon and Highland have squared off in the playoff matchups. They played in 2014 and in 2015, but they didn't play last year in the playoffs, and they'll play this year again in the regional semifinals.
They've had 2 games even prior to that.
Yeah.
2000. I believe in 2010 they played each other, and they played for the regional championship. That game was actually in Brunswick, where Highland got a last-minute field goal, I believe from Luke Allen to put them over the top there. So lots of playoff familiarity here between the Hornets and the Eagles. I'm looking forward to seeing this game. It'll be it's definitely be a very well coached game between Coach Gibbons and his staff and Coach Elder and his staff. That game will take place at Packatan Stadium in Stroudsville
Great facility out there.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And you couldn't think of a better place, really, for two teams like that. I could think of a better place, but unfortunately, there's going to be a game there already going on this week. So we'll transition into the final game of Division II Region 6. This region had a little bit of everything. It had a little bit of the Suburban League National Division, American Division, and the Southwestern Conference. And as far as the Suburban League National Division, its champions, the Wadsworth Grizzlies, undefeated, 10-0 overall, 7-0 in the conference. They played host to Sylvania Northview, 8-2 overall, 5-2 in the Northern Lakes Conference. This was one of the two Sports on Tap games of the week. So we had the Wildcats of Sylvania Northview traveling to Wadsworth to take on the Grizzlies. This was Sylvania Northview's first playoff appearance in 12 years.
Wow.
They had not been to the playoffs since 2005. Wadsworth was blanking their first playoff appearance since 2014 when this current senior class were freshmen. So I talked a little bit about it in my questions to the game, a little offshoot of Sean Duffy's keys to the game. One of my questions was, both teams haven't been to the playoffs in a little bit. I was really speaking more to Northview, being 12 years away from the playoffs. Which team would overcome the early game jitters first? Northview they wasted zero time making their presence felt. They took the opening kickoff and proceeded to march 70 yards in just 4 plays. A 50-yard touchdown run by Dane Hullabarger put the Wildcats on the board before most people had a chance to sit down. That drive lasted less than 2 minutes. And then Wadsworth, on their first drive, went backwards. They had a punt from their own 5-yard line, and after a good return, the Wildcats took over on the 35. Senior quarterback Brandon Leach, this dude was a tree. He is 6'7", and he is every bit of 6'7". He hit wide receiver Ryan Rempe for an 18-yard completion to the Wadsworth 16. 4 plays later, Hullabarger plunged into the end zone from 2 yards out, and before you knew it, it was 14-0.
Wow.
Sylvania Northview, shocking so far against the Wadsworth Grizzlies with 4:26 left in the first quarter. Unfortunately for the Wildcats, they had a penalty which took the kickoff back to the 15 yards from the 25. And then for whatever reason, and I'm not sure what happened here, but the Northview kicker appeared to have maybe tried an onside kick or some sort of a squib. Either way, it didn't really go very far, and the Grizzlies had fantastic field position. They had the ball back on the 49-yard line of the Wildcats. 5 plays later, quarterback Joey Boffman found wide receiver Mitchell Blackburn for a beautiful touchdown pass, 27 yards out, cut the lead in half to 14-7. The Grizzlies were able to hold the Wildcat offense. Joey Fahrenholtz got a 9-yard sack of Brandon Leach and got the ball back for the Grizzlies. Boffman got the ball back on the own 34-yard line, 66 yards in less than a minute, hitting Blackburn on a perfectly blocked screen pass. This game was tied 14-14 before you knew it. Northview continued to play from ahead. Hullabarger rushed for his 3rd touchdown, this one from 1 yard out. A great diving catch by Rempe from Leach set that touchdown up. The Grizzlies quickly answered back. At this point, instead of having Boffman drop back and scan the field, quick passes to Blackburn, a quick pass to Christian Zalay. Grant Martinez got in the act. 1-yard touchdown run by Brock Snowball tied it up. Hullabarger was not done. He had a 3-yard touchdown run, which was his 4th of the game. And then a botched PAT snap led to Luke Pollock, the kicker for Northview, scrambling around the field for the better part of 5 or 6 seconds. Somehow he found Alex Sample in the end zone for an improvised 2-point conversion, and Northview had a 29-21 lead. Undaunted, though, the Grizzlies began to unleash their rushing attack. Boffman and Brock Snowball just continued to pound away at the Wildcat defense. Boffman then hit Blackburn for his 3rd touchdown of the game, this one from 6 yards out, and then went right back to him for the 2-point conversion, and this game was tied at 29-29 with just 48 seconds left in the half. Although the Wildcats got the ball back at the 32-yard line with relatively good field position with 2 timeouts left. They actually got to the 41-yard line with just about 40 seconds left. And what, I was talking with Josh about this at halftime. Coach Doug Downing of the Wildcats, he elected to go into half tied with the undefeated Grizzlies instead of maybe attempting to get into field goal range for Luke Pollock, who has a great leg. I mean, his extra points were clearing. If you guys have been to Wadsworth, they have buildings behind each of the uprights, and his extra points were clearing those routinely. So he had a hell of a leg on him, and I think if you're a Northview, you're probably not too upset going into this, going into the into halftime down, or I'm sorry, at a tied game, 29-29. Now the Wildcats, they were able to answer the bell a couple of times in the third quarter. Boffman started the third quarter off with a 63-yard touchdown run to start the second half. Brandon Leach calmly led Northview on a 75-yard drive, completing 4 passes due to the fact that there were some penalties. He actually completed 4 passes for 89 yards, culminating in a 13-yard touchdown pass to wide receiver Camden Coran. However, Pollock's extra point was blocked, and Wadsworth maintained a 36-35 lead. The Grizzlies kept the ball on the ground for 7 of the next 10 plays. Snowball found the end zone from 11 yards out, and Ryan Lark hit the extra point, leading to a 43-35 lead for the Grizzlies. The Wildcats clawed back. Leach found Ryan Rempe for a 10-yard touchdown pass, a tremendous grab over a Wadsworth defender. This drive was aided by an unnecessary roughness penalty. It was a helmet-to-helmet hit between Snowball and wide receiver Jarrett Batanian. Pollock's extra point was good, and the Sylvania Northview Wildcats went into the fourth quarter trailing just 43-42. This was nuts.
Wow. Defensive battle here.
Right? Mind you, at this point, there have been exactly one punt per team.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
0 turnovers.
Wow.
But so the Grizzlies, they got the ball back and to end the third quarter, and going into the fourth quarter, they did find their groove in the rushing game. Boffman did find Blackburn for a 12-yard touchdown pass just 2 plays into the fourth quarter. And the Grizzlies were then able to wear down the Wildcats. Leach was not able to hit some receivers, and Hullabarger was getting stopped more by that aggressive Grizzlies defense. In fact, the Wildcats they didn't think they could stop the Grizzlies, so they bypassed punting on the rest of their possessions to end the game. Unfortunately, the Wildcats were right. Brock Snowball rushed for a 1-yard touchdown after the first turnover on downs, and then Boffman completed an 11-yard touchdown pass to Blackburn after the second turnover on downs. That was actually caused by Blackburn's knockdown of a pass on defense. He didn't play defense very often, but he made his impact there. The game was blown open. It was 61-42. Leach's final attempt at a comeback was thwarted by the defense with just over 2 minutes left in the game. Wadsworth successfully runs out the clock. They defeat a very, very worthy Sylvania Northview team 61-42.
Wow.
The number 2 seed taking on the number 7 seed there, that matchup. Now, Sylvania was able to hang offensively for the first 3 quarters. Brandon Leach, once again, 6'7".
Are you sure that wasn't Brock Osweiler trying to get in a little?
He threw a better ball than Osweiler. This dude he completed 26 of 32 passes for 338 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
Ryan Rempe caught 10 of those passes for 144 yards and a touchdown. Camden Coran caught 7 passes for 78 yards and a touchdown. Dane Hullabarger rushed 17 times for 117 yards and 4 touchdowns. Those of you who may have been following the game on Twitter, Josh did have a touchdown counter for Hullabarger. 4 touchdowns in the first half there.
Wow.
And a callus on his thumb, probably from all the tweets that he had to write.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, he was busy. You guys did a great job at that game, though, updating Twitter. If you ever want to follow our games of the week, Josh did a great job with
he was all over
video. I think he had video highlights of some scores.
Oh, it was great.
Crazy game.
The Grizzlies just had a little bit more in the tank, led by All-Ohio quarterback Joey Boffman. He completed 22 of 28 passing for 229, 5 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. Then he rushed 14 times for 191 yards and his touchdown.
Jeez.
Mitchell Blackburn caught 13 passes for 130 yards and 5 touchdowns. and a 2-point conversion. And then Brock Snowball finished up with 14 carries for 123 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Who has him on our fantasy team?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Goodness
5
gracious.
touchdowns?
He would have been great yesterday.
Blackburn was a monster.
That's crazy.
They found him in different spots. I mean, he was able to beat Northview deep. He was able to get intermediate routes. I mean, it was a beautifully blocked pass, screen pass that went for 39 yards in the first quarter for a touchdown. I mean, it took a little bit for Wadsworth to settle down, but once they did, Boffin said after the game they're very comfortable with their offense and they know what they can do. So I mean, once they got down 14-0, it wasn't panic mode. It was all right. Well, we know what we can do. Let's just play our game and we'll be fine.
Well, I think it says a lot because in the fourth quarter, didn't they outscore Northview 18-0? So I mean, that says a lot about the defense really clamped down too, which they gave up a lot of points, but in that fourth quarter when they needed them, they held Northview. But I mean, I think it's so impressive with Wadsworth because they have weapons from everywhere.
Yep.
Running the football with Snowball. How many wide receivers are involved in this game? They're not afraid to throw. They really balance it out really well, and it's going to be tough for teams to stop them.
Well, in Northview, they ended their season at 9-2. I mean, they did bring their offensive and defensive lines were pretty big as well, and they were very physical, and they were very successful for 3 quarters. For being the first playoff appearance in 12 years, they acquitted themselves very well.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a very lively fan base, and they had plenty to cheer about, and a lot to be proud of. If you're Sylvania Northview, a great season. But however, it is the resilient Wadsworth Grizzlies team that moves on. They are now 11-0 overall. They will take on the number 3 seed, the Olmsted Falls Bulldogs, next Friday night. That game will be at Brunswick Automart Stadium in Brunswick, Ohio. That game will be Friday night at 7:30 kickoff.
Yeah,
that should be a good game. Actually.
Yeah, we'll tell everybody where we're at after our next game of the week. But
after our dalliance into the Division 3 Region 9.
Yeah,
exactly.
There was a lot going on in Division 2 Region 6
Yeah.
for all of our
Holy
teams
cow.
there. And, actually, all of our teams advanced.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was
So that
1,
was,
2, 3, and 4. No
Yes.
upsets.
No upsets. All chalk here.
Straight shocks.